2025 Ironman Wisconsin. This one's taking place September 7th, the day after the 70.3. So there's going to be loads of athletes around for you, Iron people. If you are a little nervous about the swim leading up to this one, make sure you head out the day before, a little bit earlier than you probably would like, but you would get a good gauge of the swim. So speaking of our swim here, we got a lake swim, a rolling bike course, very challenging bike course, and a hilly, classified hilly run out here. Average high air temperatures in the 65, lows 42, average water temperature is 75. This is exactly what you're going to get. That's the lake. This is the helix that you will be going on your, and this is your bike right here. And then your run, it's right here. Very, very great. I like this run course a lot. We'll dive into that in a minute here. But this is a challenging one for everyone. So diving into our swim out here. Again, this is our two-loop swim this year. If you were doing the 70.3 the day before, or you watch someone do the 70.3 the day before, it's the exact same swim. You're just going to do it an additional loop. So you're heading out, all right-hand turns on this one, and you're going to do that 2 times out here. So similar to the 70.3, you're going to have a mad rush to this first turn right here. After you hit this first turn, it will loosen up a lot out here. Your main job is going to be to arrive at this corner right here, ready, fresh, and ready to rock and roll. Watch your pace, watch your effort. Make sure you're drafting off of people. Make sure they are putting out the pace for you, and you are not the pace driver unless you're a super confident swimmer out here. Really strong or really challenging bike ahead, so you want to just be careful out here on race day. Coming back in over here, this one's similar to the 70.3 carbon copy course. This last side of our swim course is it's a huge opportunity for you to overdo it on race day. Just be careful, be really mindful of your effort. As you get closer, spectators, you get closer to those spectators out there. You can see them, they can see you. Anxiety, nerves, and you want to show off a little bit out there on race day. Be careful of those traps. You're going to go out for lap number 2, the exact same way. When you start out lap number 2, a lot of that feeling that we just talked about with the spectators is going to fade once you hit this corner out here. And you're probably going to have an oh shoot moment. I went a little too hard. If that's the case, make sure you back it down and get ready for your bike. So speaking of our bike, this is our bike course here. Actually, this is our bike course here. And if we went to our Ironman site, this is the official course of the map that is downloadable out here. I have no reason to think that this would change. So this is the map that's up there right now. We have a 2-loop course out here. So when I talk about that, you're going to do this first section once, then you're going to hit the loop. You're going to do the loop again, right? And then you're going to head back into town. So this little section out here is a dual loop course. We do have a load of aid stations out here on the loops out here. We have 4, which is really, really great. I am not 100% about that one right there, but if it's there, awesome, awesome stuff. Now, let's talk about how to attack this course. First, we got to talk about wind. This is our little area over here. We're going to be going down this road over here, and then we are making our way up over here, and then we're doing this 2 times and then heading back in. So when we talk about our bike course, this is our real general area out here. This is getting recorded on July 4th. Happy 4th, everybody. And as we rotate over here, you can see that the wind does shift a little bit from day to day. A lot of this purple is 0 to 3 miles an hour. If you see any blues, that's starting to get up to the upper singles, lower double digits out there. And you can see this is pretty much what you're going to get leading up to the race. Saturday, this is probably the most aggressive day, right? What we're going to show you is something similar to Sunday the 6th out here. This is typically what I would expect, something like that. Looking at everything here, this is what they expect as well. So scrolling down over here, right? Max wind that they have forecasted for is about 14 miles an hour. I would probably, I'm going to go out on a limb and say I agree, but this course is known for its variance. This course is known to change on a dime really fast. And some years it can be 40 and rain. Other years it can be 80 and hot. You never know what you're going to get, so pay attention to the weather as it gets closer, and that will benefit you tremendously. Looking at our elevation gain, we have about 5,600 feet of elevation gain. Max elevation gradient is 7%, and that's going to be right there. You're going to do that 2 times out there on course. And let's dive into the nitty gritty here. So looking at our power plan over here, you can see that this is really up and down. I tried to If we just get rid of all this other stuff. If we just look at power, right, I've tried to eliminate the major shifts and things like that to give you a better context of what you can expect out here. But the reality is when you bring that elevation back, you're up, you're down, you're all around, you are going to be using pretty much every single gear out there. Compounding that with the wind, and we haven't even talked about other people yet. This is one of the more challenging bike courses out there on the Ironman circuit, in my opinion, of course. So as we start to roll out of town out here, this section right here is a very busy section, especially mapped out right through here. This section here. A lot of twists, a lot of turns, right? There's not a lot of room. There is a bike path that you do have to go over. So I would imagine there's going to be people pretty much everywhere out here. Make sure you're aware of what's going on out here. You can see that this does happen in the first mile and a half to 4 or 5 miles of the race here. So you might not be able to fuel as much as you want out here. If you are fueling, make sure you pick and choose where you're doing that. Make sure you're being safe, watching out for other people as well, because you're going to be turning left, right, all around. It's going to be a little bit busy out here, a little bit more busy than you would like in the first initial stages of the bike. It's just what they got to do. So be careful for these first couple of miles out here. Now, as we start to look at things overall out here, you could see that this does have a net increase out here for the first, let's call it 12 miles out there. That is a huge problem for a lot of people. Anytime you see that, alarm bell should be going off, and everyone usually tries to really crush it for these first couple of miles, trying to set a PR and win and all that fun stuff. So it's understandable, but just be careful out here. All right. We haven't even made it to the main drag yet. We do that at about mile 16, I believe, 15 right there. So for these first 15 miles, these are going to be roads that you're not going to be traveling on a bunch. You're just doing it out and back out there. As we continue out here, we're up, we're down, and if you look at even the downhills out here, they are mixed in, right? You have rolling uphill. So we have 79 feet of elevation gain in this 136 feet of elevation loss zone. And that's pretty much what you're going to find all over the place. If we look at the major spots over here, you can see that the elevation does undulate out here. So anytime this happens on a course, you really want to try to build that speed up, not super aggressively, right? But, just try to build that speed up as best you can on some of those flatter sections or the downhill sections. If you are able to do that, right? Your speed on those uphill sections, you're going to be going a little faster. You're going to be eating up that elevation. Awesome stuff. That's exactly what you want. The problem lies when it happens over and over again. So a lot of people can get stuck in the trap of really driving the hills, especially at the bottom of those hills, trying to keep that speed up, really driving, right? And consequently, it's a surge, and if you're not paying attention, you're just going to be surging all day long out here. So if you look at go back to our little power profile here. Let's zoom in on the first 30 miles out here, and you can see that there are surges out here. Let's bring elevation back. It's zoomed in for you. There are surges, but it's all controlled. This athlete, it's got about 240 FTP out here. This athlete's, this is a little bit of a conservative plan for him, but nonetheless, you can see that this power is not going crazy out here. If you find that you're approaching that FTP surge again and again, you are going to overcook it. You're going to be going a little too aggressive out there, and that is going to come back to bite you. Maybe not at the very end of the bike, but definitely on the run for sure. And that's where a lot of people fall into trouble here at Ironman Wisconsin, is this consistent surging again and again. So one of the more challenging sections of the course, the very top all the way to the bottom out here. This is what you're going to expect out here. And again, this is one of the areas where you can get into a nice little rhythm, but if you're not careful, this is why I bring it up, if you're not careful, a lot of these little areas with these ups and downs, you have the potential to surge, and you just got to be very mindful of what's going on. You should be going fast. You should be, driving that speed up 100%, right? But you got to be doing it, at a pace that's good for you, right? A lot of people get suckered into what other people are doing out here. A lot of people forget what's happening with our wind, right? So going back to that wind just for one last time out here, just for giggles, right? This is probably going to be an area where you do have a little bit of a tailwind, and everyone's going to be trying to really eke back as much time as possible during this section out here. The other spot that is going to be a challenging spot from a wind perspective is this section right here, right? And again, bringing back that elevation a little bit clearer so everyone can see. This is what you can typically expect out here. Again, you're driving these small little downhills slightly, just getting that speed up a little bit. And then you will be able to eat up some of that elevation, I believe, what do we say? 5,600 feet of elevation gain out there. So as we roll over, let's bring speed back out here. Watch our cyclist in the bottom right hand. And as we keep going over our area, you're going to be greeted with a nice tailwind on the way out as we start to make our way onto the lollipop circuit out here. We do hit a cross headwind. Watch out, we still are in the early stages of the race. As we continue on the bottom, that's going to be a continuing theme, right? We're going to have some sections of slight cross tailwind if this is the wind scenarios. If it rotate after you rotate up, you're going to be met with a nice headwind. It's going to feel terrible. As you rotate over here, you're going to be greeted with a crosswind or a tailwind, and that's going to be a mixed bag pretty much for the remainder of this last lap over here. It's going to be a carbon copy pretty much for the next lap again. And as we rotate back into our finishing zone out here, crosswind on this bottom section, and as you rotate up, you're going to be met with that headwind coming back into town. Keep in mind that that does happen at about 106 miles down there. So, you're going to have a good little chunk of time to be battling the wind a little bit more than you want. So for those last 7-ish miles, make sure that you are mentally prepared to keep the pressure on the pedals a little bit, so don't completely come off it. Scrolling up here, looking at our time analysis, drag. If we were to improve our drag slightly on a course like this, we'd save 1 minute and 1 second out here. Power, if we were to increase our FTP, say, by 1 or 2 watts out here, we would save 1 minute 51 seconds out here. Weight, shaving down a little bit, we are going to save about 46 seconds out here. Rolling resistance, same thing. We are looking at about 20 seconds out here. So if it were me, what I would be focusing on for sure is we're going to be trying to drive up our FTP. If I can increase by, let's say, 3% right now, I'm already netting, for me, athlete for 240 FTP-ish. I'm going to save about 5.5 minutes out here. If I improve my drag slightly out here, we're talking 7.5 minutes out here on a course like this. So it has huge ramifications out here, and this course is going to really benefit higher FTPs, right? If you do have some weight to shave, not hurting either. This athlete is pretty much already where they need to be right now, so that's why it's not having a huge impact out here. Zones, we're driving zone 2, it's Ironman. Zone 3 a lot of the time as well. You're going to have some time in that zone 1, and that's some of the downhills that are mixed in there for sure. So this course, challenging, right? If you ride it correctly, it is doable. This course is a little bit slower than some other ones. So just know that going into it. All right. Looking at our aid stations out here, again, they come in very critical spots out here, so make sure you are not missing those aid stations. Make sure you are hitting them. If you're not if you're not hip to the fueling, the race fueling that everyone is going to be doing on race day, make sure you are practicing with some of their stuff. If you are planning on bringing your own, of course, make sure you're doing that as well. So that is the bike. Let's move on to our run section out here. This is our run. Keep in mind, just like the bike, this is a 2-loop run course. The loops are right here. So you're going to make your way all throughout here. You're going to do a down and then back up, and then come back in. And then you're going to do a loop. This loop starts right here. So this is going to be the point at which you start to go onto your second loop, right? And that is going to be your final loop before you head into Ironman Glory. You can see the aid stations are scattered all about. I've done my best to kind of map out a little bit out here. Let's dive into what you can really realistically expect for the run out here. So our run. Again, you're going to have aid stations abound, right? It's typical Ironman, right? This is city running, so you're going to be going up and down and kind of all around. And if you're not familiar with that, I would highly encourage you to kind of get familiar with that. So as we initially make our way out over here, it's a little busy, and that's totally, totally fine. We're going to drop down a little bit through the city over here. We have a couple of tight turns out here. We are running, so it's not a huge deal, but just something to keep in mind. A lot of time when we do have these tight turns, it's very common for athletes to explode out of them like they're track stars. Make sure you are not doing that, especially if you are wearing super shoes. Very high probability for you to roll an ankle, things like that. If you are not in super shoes and you are exploding out of those turns out here, make sure it is for an awesome reason if you are doing it. The risk is very, very high for very little reward out there. Very little time savings from that. But then once we get to about this point 6, point 7 miles out here, we do have a straightaway that is going to be very, very essential to our success. This straightaway, I always tell people, do not rush this portion of the course. You'll be able to see all the way to about a mile, mile point one. So I would not rush this. And the reason for that is everyone's trying to get down the road. Everyone really pushes the pace, pushes the power, right? And they forget to recover. They forget to check in with themselves. This is a great opportunity to do so. This is going to be one of the first places where it does kind of calm down a little bit, right? You're still going to be involved in the riffraff and the scene, and the vibes are going to be flowing still. But this is one of the first early places where you could kind of take a step back and say, am I ready for this? Did I overdo the bike? Do I need to fuel a little bit more? Do I need to slow down? Is my heart rate out of control? Yada, yada, yada. The list goes on and on and on. If you do not check in with yourself, the next realistic opportunity for that to happen is probably right around here at 2.4, right? Going up to the stadium. But in my mind, I would like to have that happen a lot sooner, probably right here, right? After we continue over here, then things are really going to calm down. You're going to cross the bridge and actually continue going down over there towards the swim. You're going to do a little turnaround and you're going to head towards the stadium. Very, very cool stuff. We are about 2.5 miles into this section before the stadium. At this point, a lot of athletes really try to overdo this section or just unknowingly overdo it, and that's totally fine. Just make sure you are not one of those people, okay? Make sure you're running within your means. Make sure it's an easy run. And if you find yourself running sweet spot tempo or, kind of threshold efforts right around here, make sure you are dialing it back. Also, race fueling should be a huge priority up until now. All right, rolling on over here as we hit our little stadium run. It's going to be an awesome experience. It's going to be super, super cool. Coming out of the stadium, we're going to be greeted with a nice hill. Just be careful of that, mindful of that. You're going to be running off of a high. You just ran around Badger Stadium. Go Badgers, I guess. And then once you get out, you're going to take that right-hand turn, and you're going to be met with that hill. And a lot of times, the athletes really overdo it and they don't even realize it out here. So make sure you're watching your secondary markers and you're running for you out here, not for your other people. As we make it to the top of the hill, we're making a left-hand turn. This is a lot of athletes' favorite sections. This is going to be where a lot of athletes either hit the wall or really hit their stride. It's 4 miles into the race out here. And as we continue up over here, let's get my cursor back, we are going to experience a lot of athletes' real favorite sections of the course out here. This is going to be because if it's a hot day, sweltering day, this is going to be where a lot of athletes get a little reprieve from the elements out here. As we make our way along the river, it's going to feel great. It's going to feel awesome. We will actually go away from that. We're not going to have a ton of shade on this little section out here. But once we get through our little out and back section and we are running on the river again, you can see here that we are totally encapsulated by trees for a good little portion of our run back into town. As we make our way back to where the course is over here, right, a lot of that shade and cover goes away. So again, think that hot, sweltering day, really windy day, whatever, right? All of that coverage and protection goes away, right? If it is a hot, humid day, also, that section that I just talked about, this little area back through here being awesome, could be terrible. Could be a humidity trap back there. So just be careful. This section up here, this is one of the more challenging sections of our course, and it's not because it's like overly complicated with elevation and things like that. It's just because a lot of that comfort goes away from you that you really liked in the earlier sections back through here, right? And this section, you lose that. And when you lose that, you're going to fight to kind of keep the pace and things like that. You might find that your heart rate gets a little higher. You might find that it becomes more challenging to put the pace out, hit the power numbers, whatever, right? As we slowly come back over here, it's going to slowly start to be a little bit easier for a while, kind of running back into town out here. And as we get our cursor, our place back on the map, right through here, right, we are going to hit that hill again, right? So this is going to be a little, it's not going to feel great, but if you look at total elevation, we're going from 850 to 900. So if anyone lives in a remotely hilly area, that's not anything major. The hill gradient is about 1.5%, 2%, and a couple of swift sections out there. But then once you hit this little section, you're going to run down to the stadium and you're going to be greeted with a nice downhill, and that's going to continue pretty much until you hit the section, the magic section that we talked about earlier, where you do climb back up. You're going to run around the little square over there to start your loop number 2, and it's pretty much a carbon copy for you out there. Check in with yourself frequently. I would really evaluate your how you're feeling in that first little mile section over there. A common thread for athletes on this course is to really overdo it. The changing conditions or scenarios really mess with a lot of people. You got the stadium to worry about. You got bridges to navigate. You've got little sections over here where you're totally encapsulated by shade. This section back over here, you are open to the elements after just being like, got a nice little break from them. So it's constantly changing out here, which means that you have to constantly be able to adapt. So if you know that you don't do well in the heat, right? Make sure that you hit this aid station before you go into the hot zone with a place with no coverage, right? Make sure you're doing that. If you know that you struggle on hills, long, steady hills, coming back in, make sure you're aware that this is going to happen here. Make sure you're fueled up, ready to rock and roll. Maybe you just, get up this hill instead of crushing this hill on the way back in. So change your strategy according for you, and that's going to really set you up for success on race day. A lot of athletes don't do that, and a lot of athletes fail because of that on the run. Really fun course, Ironman Wisconsin. Have a ball, everyone. I wish everyone the best of luck.